Hey everybody, it's Erik Torenberg, co-founder, partner of Village Global, a network-driven venture firm. And this is Venture Stories, a podcast covering topics relating to tech and business with world-leading experts. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Village Global's Venture Stories. I'm here today joined by Andrew Barry. And Andrew is running On Deck Course Creators at On Deck, which is just launched today, and education. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Erik. So cool to be here, man.
So by way of introduction, why don't you give us a quick background of how you got into this space?
Yeah, so I used to work at a company called KPMG 15 years. I helped build out their executive education program. So was always rooted in sort of training, was very workshop based at the time. I then helped a company called Lobster Inc. by creating their learning methodology. They were then acquired by Ecolab. And for the last 5 years, I took that experience and parlayed that into my own company, Curious Lion. And for 5 years, we've been creating corporate training for the likes of Pinterest and PagerDuty. And the other part of it is that I've just always been a huge fan of online courses. I probably spend upwards of $10K a year on these programs. And so I've always been in that world as well. And there was really 2020 where like those two things came together and I think just create this huge potential for online education going forward.
Yeah. And why don't you give us a quick just background of how online education has evolved over time, if there were different waves and where we are now?
Yeah, so like the independent online course world is it started out, I think most people who were offering it were marketers, right? So they were creating usually evergreen content, using these complicated funnels and tripwires and all these very clever marketing techniques to get people into an information product, which in the early days, and for most, there was very rare where people created a transformation for those that actually, attended those programs. So what these marketers had to do was create even more fancy click funnels and ways to kind of trick people in, for those who've seen those webinars that are starting in 16 minutes, and it was really like probably 2 years ago with Seth Godin's Alt MBA. And then followed very closely after that with, Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain, David Perel's Rite of Passage, courses like that started to really define this cohort-based course model where transformation became the central thing, where people would come together and it wasn't about bells and whistles and tripwires and funnels. It was about the word of mouth of people going to these programs and going, that literally changed my life. And meeting and people, the community element of it as well. So that just exploded in 2020 with everyone being remote and having all this extra time on their hands. And I know you guys, we have seen that now at On Deck as well. So it's just a really exciting time. And I think there's a place for both of those now, cohort-based courses, people creating evergreen content, and just so much potential out there.
Yeah. And I just want to give a special shout out to the people we mentioned, Dave Perel, Tiago, Seth Godin, a number of others, you yourself and people you've worked with for really being, fellow pioneers here and doing, being early on. I'm curious, why do you think that this took, until 2017, 2018 to be more mainstream? Like, why wasn't it done before? And what is the central, real innovation there?
I mean, it's funny because a lot of my consulting clients have asked me, they come in and they think they need bells and whistles to improve their course, and that's why they work with me. And honestly, the biggest thing, the highest leverage thing you can do to improve a course is create intentional human to human interaction. Like that's it. That's the secret. Like creating that community of people that can learn from each other, grow together, figure out ways to partner and work together. So it's kind of bizarre. Like there is nothing sort of, like I said, fancy or bells and whistles about it. It's like, it's getting designing meaningful interactions between people as they learn together. And I think the other interesting thing is that there's this appetite now for, people have more time on their hands, right? They're remote. And so I think that it's getting more mainstream because of that. I don't know if I have a good answer to why it wasn't before this, right? Like this has always been like a very like small clique, like this little like Twitter kind of world of people who take these online courses. But that's changing now. People are hearing more about it as people graduate from these programs and talk about them. And so that's a big part of it. And the other part is, it's the community which just starts to grow, and just people start to spread the word about it and talk about it.
Yes, some things that add to that are the challenges with MOOCs, or is that people really needed accountability or that social community in order to get them through it, or they would get so much more from it. And maybe in terms of the why now, I mean, part of it might be that just our tools have gotten so much better, right? Slack, Zoom. Yeah. We're more comfortable making online friendships and online relationships, and so maybe it just became easier to make.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back to the beginning of 2020, it was still weird to meet someone online and just start talking to them, jump on a Zoom call for 30 minutes. But that's like totally normal now.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense. So let's get into On Deck Course Creators. What is the program, and what could people expect to get out of it?
Yeah, so I think why this is such an amazing opportunity is that there isn't a community for course creators. And so course creators are like, they do a lot of different things. So a lot of them are freelancers. So they're in these tangential communities, like a freelancer one. They're marketers. So they're in marketing communities. They're community builders. So they're in, those kind of communities. Those serve the right needs, but they're not all focused on course creation. So it's also kind of goes back to your earlier question, like, why hasn't this taken off? A lot of people ask me, why isn't there a community for course creators? And it's just, and that, when you and I started talking about this in December, it just felt like such a perfect fit, because there is literally no better place I can think of than On Deck that is built on this foundation of community to bring people together. So that's first and foremost is kind of the vision for Course Creator Fellowship, to bring together people who either have a course or have a validated, market through some kind of other product, and now they want to create a course for it, to help them work together side by side so that they can learn how to either launch their course or level up an existing one, but then also find potential partners, potential collaborators, potential future students through this network that we would have within the fellowship, and then through intentional interactions with other fellowships. It's just such an incredible kind of viral effect that can take place.
Yeah. And we'll have some version of a demo day for our thousands of fellows plus others to help fill up their courses, and who knows, maybe even facilitate people investing in their courses.
Exactly. Super exciting.
And I just want to give a special shout out to Gagan and Wes who are building a company that helps, among other things, it helps productize and as a platform and builds tools for people to create these cohort-based courses, and we're excited to work closely with them. Let's get into what makes a great cohort-based course. What are the elements or criteria of a really well done one?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the central pillar of all of this is student transformation. So I believe you can create transformations for every single student at scale. I talk about it in no student left behind policy. So if every single person going through your program has experiences of transformation, they're going to tell others, right? So what you end up creating is this army of alumni ambassadors who are just naturally going to tell people about the program. And I truly believe you can do that at scale. And we've proven that in a few programs like Ali Abdal's one, which was 350 people. So that's the sort of central pillar. Around that, you've got things like community, which is so pivotal, and having people learning from each other. We do learn best from each other. That's a scientific fact. We also learn best by doing. So there's a big bias for action. That's a key part of it as well. There's a lot to go into it. So you have to have a business mind for creating online courses these days. They can scale and will continue to scale incredibly. So that's super important. And then for me, such an interesting one and an important one is having a passion, right? You've got to be passionate, because this is hard. Doing online courses is really hard. You've got to be really passionate about that subject, that topic. I actually have a failed online course in my past where I have a small lead generation business, and I created a course teaching people how to use LinkedIn. And my heart was never in it, and this was 2 years ago, and it failed. And I learned so much from that. Like, you've got to have, almost first and foremost, you've got to have that passion to create that transformation in others. If you get those two things right, everything else can fall into place. And that's what we're going to try and impart on people through our fellowship.
Totally. And when do you talk about some of the misconceptions that people have around how to make a good course, or some mistakes that people make when doing so?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ones I often come across is that, I don't want to have, first of all, I don't want to do a live program, right? So I think a lot of people see that as a lot of work, and it is. And there is certainly space for people who just want to do like evergreen content. And, Jack Butcher is a fantastic example of that. But so having sort of a live component is key. And then people also sort of come to this challenge of like, okay, well, if I scale it over, 10, 20, 30 people, if I go to 300 people, how do I create transformations for all of them at scale? I could never do that. And there actually are a lot of great ways to do that. So that's like one of the biggest misconceptions, is that you can't do this at scale. And you're not going to get like that leverage in your time by doing a live course. So I see like some of the really big names out there that are super busy that want to do a course. I would love to kind of sit down and show them that they can do this at a scale that's sort of unimaginable, and really kind of leverage their time well. So the other piece of it is that you don't need any fancy bells and whistles. I think, like you mentioned, Gagan and Wes are creating a platform around this. There are other platforms out there as well that people can use. And the great thing is, like, those are enablers, but they're not the be all and end all. Really, all that matters is you bringing students together to interact with each other and to experience transformations. If you do that right, your course is going to be a success.
Can you talk about the monetization element of creating a course, and how people should think about, hey, is this something they could pursue full time, or should they do it as a side project first, or how do you recommend people think about that?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I think we prefer to work with people who have a course, or those who have a business in place that has an existing market. So that comes with a certain sort of sustainability already. Having said that, though, it can definitely, those people who have courses, these could and often are side projects. It really, like most things, comes down to a function of time. If you get to choose this as the course creator, or I'd like to say the business owner in this case, how big you want to go, knowing that the sky is completely the limit. So, one of the cool things I think about joining on deck is that we're going to be able to bring in a lot of amazing guest speakers to help with this question. We're going to bring in guest speakers that can focus on marketing courses, launching courses, content distribution channels. So we're going to be covering a lot of these, even valuing a business. We've talked about with the special guest speaker there. It really points to the fact that creating an online course these days is creating a business. You've got to have your content in place, but you've got to have infrastructure. You've got to have hiring correct. You've got to have your monetization in place, your marketing and sales components of that. So there is just a lot going on, and that's why course creators are calling out for a community, because it's so much easier to do this with a community.
Yeah, and talk about your vision for what you hope On Deck Course Creators becomes.
Yeah, so I am so pumped for this, the potential of what we can do at On Deck, because, like I said, there is no community right now that's purely for course creators. So the primary goal, the main vision here, is to create the premier destination for the world's best course creators, right? I mean, just like pause for a moment and think about the potential of that, with these people who are absolute experts in their domain, they're hands-on practitioners coming together to create learning that benefits someone else, right? Like, I sometimes pinch myself that I get to do this on a daily basis. I get to help people create training that can reach hundreds, thousands of people and change their lives. Like, that's incredibly fulfilling. And every single one of the course creators that come through the fellowship will be able to experience that. So that's the main thing, the premier destination for the world's best course creators. And then a couple of the other things I think that are important to mention here as well is that we get to help them with distribution. You mentioned like a demo day. Like I'm even thinking like we go a full learning week here. I want to create an event that people want to sign up for every year. That just to like experience what fellows are creating, get a little taste of what fellows are creating. Imagine a whole week of 60-minute sessions, a whole like menu, a smorgasbord, that you can sign up for and take all this different content and get to learn a new skill or a new thing. So helping with distribution is going to be huge. And then the last one I think is, I know it's something near and dear to your heart, is looking at certification and figuring out that if we can offer that and help our course creator fellows with some sort of certification element, that can actually make meaningful difference to people who are in jobs, right? Helping them find new jobs, helping them with career promotions, which is, that's where we start to get to a scale of impact that goes far beyond, I think, where online courses right now are impacting. So that's super, super exciting. And yeah, I'd say those are sort of the three main things that form the vision.
And talk about how you see On Deck course creators fitting into the broader On Deck vision.
Yeah, so that's another amazing opportunity for anyone who signs up for this program, because we're going to be able to create, intentional interactions with other fellowships. So, I sort of mentioned this earlier. Creating a course is so incredibly hard. It literally is like creating a business. You've got to think about so many different things. Now, imagine, for example, you come into the fellowship and now you get a sort of a workshop day with, the On Deck No Code Fellowship. And suddenly you've got this exposure to a bunch of people who can spin up web pages and, platforms and software and all sorts of things that you can use in your course. You can get, design help. Everyone needs design help, visualizing ideas and presenting them. And On Deck Designers is something we're launching soon. And, there's the list goes on. Writers, podcasters for distribution. It's just so exciting that a course creator who's in this On Deck fellowship could get exposure in a meaningful way, like in a project-based way, right, to people that are experts in those other areas. So I think it just sort of scales the ability or the impact that you can do as a course creator.
So gearing towards closing here, Andrew, what's sort of the one thing people should take away from this if they want to make a great transformational course?
Yeah, so it is that relentless focus on student transformation. If that sounds like something you would enjoy doing, where you see that light bulb moment in people. There's a bit of an anecdote here. So I've been a fan of David's Rite of Passage. I've been in 2 of his cohorts already, and those out there who took Rite of Passage 5 will never forget that the very last session of that particular cohort, David choked up. He literally teared up. It was such an emotional, cathartic release. And he said to us afterwards, and I was involved as a mentor, he said to us, that he just couldn't, he had like 200 people on this Zoom call that were like pouring out with like how much this has changed their lives. Just can you imagine like what that must do to a person, So, and I saw something similar with Robbie Crabtree at the end of his very first cohort of performative speaking, where he saw, 40, 50 people that having this incredible, it was also like a learning week or like a presentation week. And it was amazing. And Robbie, Robbie, like he's not the most like outwardly emotional guy, and he got kind of rattled and choked up. So yeah, I think if that speaks to you, and you believe in transformation of others, and you have that knowledge and expertise to do that, then that's what you should be focusing on. And On Deck Course Creators is going to be the place to do it.
Yeah, that's a great place to close. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. For people who want to learn more about the program, just go to beondeck.com and you'll see the Course Creators program. And Andrew, thank you so much.
Erik, thanks so much for having me.
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, we'd love to hear from you. Check us out at villageglobal.vc.